Hi, everyone. My name is Venus Morris Griffin, and thank you for joining me on Talk Shop Live. So I'm here if you would like to ask me any questions about the book, The Other Side of Perfect. I'd love to answer them for you. And also, I want to start by saying this book is a promise that I made to God for His moments of our life that I would spend the rest of my life lifting others up. And so 100% of the proceeds from this book are being donated to children with parents in prison or other charities that are making a difference in people's lives. So thank you for joining me. And I'll start looking at the questions, and there's a lot. So I'll try my best to get through them. Also, I wanted to mention you can pre-order the book now on TalkShopLive if you have shop now. Okay. And where else can they pre-order the book from?
From your Simon in your
Yes.
Facebook and Instagram.
Yep, Facebook and Instagram. So you could pre-order the book anywhere you'd like. So I'm going to get closer to the screen because I can't see the questions very well. Let's see. What is the theme of this book, Gina? So the theme of this book, it's actually not what a lot of people think. It is not about telling my story. It is not about um, what the people actually did to me or to my children. It's about giving people a roadmap in whatever walk they are in their life to get through really difficult, dark times and in despair. So the book is written respectfully, and it's meant to help other people out of dark times. So, hi, Elle Morris, the best mom ever. I love you. That makes me cry. You can't send those during this thing. So, David Knox, great to see you. A fun story about David Knox is he is actually the person who got me started speaking publicly. Once I knew in order for this book to be successful, I had to make it out of the darkness myself. And um, my broker told me to call this guy named David Knox, and he could help me do that. And called David. He was in Minnesota. I told him my whole story. Before we got on the phone, he's booking his flight to Augusta, Georgia, and he followed me around on listing appointments. And he solely, through connections, told my story throughout the country. I had people flying me to Colorado, to Florida, to California, speaking and telling my story to women all over the world. So thank you, David, for joining me here. I'm a little challenged with technology, so I'm kind of going through the questions.
How's the book section?
Thank you for your strength. How's the book sectioned? So
Chandra said that.
Chandra. So, I've rewritten this book many times. It's taken me 7 years to write this book. And at first, I have to give a shout out to Kimberly Hauk, who walked with me for 7 years to help me with this. She actually heard me speak at the National Association of Realtors in California. No, actually, I was in Boston for the first one, and she came up to me afterwards, and she was a reporter, and she said, could I interview you for my magazine and do an ad? She said, I've heard people speak all over the country, and your story is the most impactful thing and most powerful story I've ever heard. So I'm like, sure. So I took that as a sign from God that, okay, this story is meant to be shared with the world. So I approached her after she interviewed me and said, I've been trying to write a book, but I have no idea how to write it myself. Would you help me? And she says, I've never written a book, but I'd love to. And so she went on this journey for 7 years with me writing this book. So thank you, Kimberly. The book is sectioned it starts with the phone call in the middle of the night when I learn some devastating news from a prostitute and how that call in 10 seconds changed my life. And that's the prologue. And then it begins with my childhood, me sitting as a very young child by the couch, watching my mother's fingernails And if they were to turn blue, my job was to call 911. So that's the way the book starts, because in order to understand the power of the story and why I stayed in such an abusive marriage, you've really got to understand the childhood portion for it to all make sense. So that's where I chose to start the book. And then I follow through as a young child trying to figure out how to survive and not to um, make the same mistakes that my siblings made to get through my life and have a family. So, okay. So, Mary, for those of us who don't know your story, please give us some insight into what this book is all about. So, again, the book is not about what my mother did to me. It's not about what my husband did to me and my children. Those details are very graphic and they're in there because it's important to understand they're respectfully placed in there, because this book is not about shaming anyone at all, because we all struggle. We all struggle. This book is about what do you do when you do everything right and the world crushes on your shoulders. And it gives women, and especially mothers, a roadmap so that they do not feel lost and hopeless and in despair. And so this book is a promise made to God to give other women and mothers and even men a roadmap to get through some of the most difficult challenges that they might be facing. So, okay, Black Guy for real. It made you the powerful person you are today. Thank you. I I agree with you. I think that everything happens for a reason, and I think God let me go through a lot of adversity, and He gave me a gift that I could reach out and help other people get through some really tough times. And so I look at my childhood as a blessing, because had I not had such a difficult childhood, I would not maybe have had the tools to navigate being a single mother of 6 children after my husband went to prison with a sentence of 45 years. So thank you. Sydney, go Mama V, go. You're doing amazing. I love you. Y'all can't see these. Okay.
This one was pretty powerful.
Okay. All right. So who is that? Katie?
Aaron, no, Katie?
Aaron, no, Katie. Okay. I'm about to leave the abusive marriage I have been in, and I'm so scared to do it financially on my own when I have been a stay-at-home mom. So I know exactly how you feel. And what I can tell you is you're not supposed to know all of the answers right now. You just take the first step and then the second step, and you take the next step and then the next step, and then you're going to get somewhere. And I'll tell you what, the most powerful part of this book is I take responsibility for failing my children, because I stayed in an abusive marriage for almost 20 years thinking I was protecting them and I was loving their father and I was being a good mother, and I failed my kids deeply, because leaving actually took more strength and courage than staying. And as a parent, if you're in an abusive marriage, my advice to you is, hands down, it is better and easier for your children to raise them in a one parent home that is surrounded by love, even if you have nothing, surrounded by love, than a two-parent home with abuse. So take my word, read this book. It will give you a superpower to know that you need to do the right thing. Okay. So we'll keep going. Okay, so Carol, Venus, was there one moment when you realized, okay, I'm going to make it through this, even if everything around you was falling apart? So when my husband was sentenced, I remember driving home from the courthouse that day, and the children and I, we lived in a two-bedroom cottage, and so the living area was really small. So we sat in a circle, and I remember just being very transparent with them. At the time, I had a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, 9-year-old, 11, 13, and 15-year-old. And I remember sitting them down, and I said to them, I was very honest, and I said to them, your father is going away for some very bad things. And I don't know what that means or looks like. But what I know is that I promise you, as your mother, I will never, ever stop fighting to take care of you. And our oldest son, John, I'll never forget, he looked at me, he says, Mom, you do everything you can do, and we're going to pull together as a family, and we're going to be okay, whatever that looks like. If we have nothing, we have each other. And I knew that we were going to be okay. I didn't know what it looked like. I never dreamed that I would be as successful as I've been from a business standpoint. And it wasn't even a goal. It just, the harder you work, the luckier you get, the more successful you get. But I knew I was going to be okay, even though I knew the road was going to be long and hard and dark. I knew God was going to pull me and my children through it. I didn't know how, but I knew it. So, okay. So, oh, Harry, Harry, thank you for your question. Your story is so emotional. Was there a chapter in this book that was especially hard to write because it brought back so many memories? There were so many chapters in this book that were so hard to write. And I teetered on a line because I love my mother and she has so much good into her. So I had to be very careful, because when you're telling stories of abuse and things that happen, you can tell things that happen with respect. And I had to tell things I didn't want to tell. And it made me very uncomfortable, which is why it took me 7 years to get through the book. The same with my children's father. I am very limited on a lot of things that I share in the book, because what he did doesn't isn't really the arc in my book. You know, the arc is the survival, and my greatest success are my children. That I have 7 amazing children that they love each other. They're each other's people. And that's how I measure my success. The other stuff is just, that stuff is just a bonus. But so to answer your question, no, there's not one chapter that was especially hard to write. There's many chapters, but there's also many beautiful parts. And what I hope is that the book uh, leaves you thinking, damn, if this lady can do it, I can do it no matter what. And that's what this book is going to do. It's going to give you hope, and even forgiveness for people that hurt you. It's meant to show compassion as well. So, Maria, as a mom, how did you find the strength to keep showing up for your 6 kids when you were carrying so much yourself? So, Maria, that was very difficult. I remember laying in my bed and I could barely get up. I could barely. I could barely get out of the bed. But I did. And that's the sum of how you get through hard stuff. You get out of bed, and have I tell people that hear my story, There is not one beautiful event that saved my family. It was the ordinary moments that really kept them healthy and us together. The first thing is, you get up and you take care of yourself. I ran at 5 a.m. in the mornings and I hated it. I still don't like it. But I knew that I needed to get those endorphins going because I was deeply sad, deeply. And then I took my children the first year my husband was in prison. I took them to mass every day at 7 a.m. before school. And then I took them on Saturday or Sunday, whichever day we went. And that was very difficult because, I had 6 kids, 1 to 15, and nobody's at church, like only a handful at that time. And they hated it and I hated it. But years later, one of my daughters wrote me a letter and said, "Thank you. Thank you for making us do that." Because the reality is, like, 6 of those days, maybe 5 or either 6 out of some weeks, but if it's 1 day a week or 1 day every other week, I kept doing the same things, the right things, and I would get something that would carry me through that week to be a better mom to my kids and to serve my clients better. And so you keep doing the little things. It's like a bank account. I was telling someone earlier, you keep putting $1 in it every day. It doesn't seem like a lot, but then it's a lot of money over time. And that's the way my faith was. And the third thing was prioritizing family dinners through uh, crazy 70-hour work weeks. My assistants knew that, I was going to have dinner, and the children and I sat there, and I would put my phone down and we would go around and talk about our good thing and not so good things. And those little things are still what we value most and what keeps our family together. It's not something grand, the big vacations. It's being there, showing up and being present. So, Nancy, so you went from losing almost everything to becoming a self-made millionaire. What do you think was the biggest mindset shift that helped you change your life? So, I'd never planned on being a self-made millionaire, and that's actually the least significant thing about me. It's important because the world values money, and they listen to you when you go from being broke and 6 children to a self-made multimillionaire. And so that is important because it gets people's attention. But there wasn't a mindset other than I will not quit. And I remember when I got in the real estate business, I didn't know anything about it. And my son, again, says to me, "Mom, if you study something for 1 hour a day, in 5 years, you'll be an expert." Well, let me tell you, I wasn't studying 1 hour a day. I was studying like 20 hours. I was trying to research everything I knew. I would drive by houses. I would see signs out in their yard because I came from a family that, they lived in, you know, trailers. They lived hours away. They're good people and I loved them, but they couldn't throw me a life raft. And so it was either do or die for me. And so I would knock on the doors and I would tell people how great I would be if they would give me a chance. And then I would not only deliver, I would over deliver, and they would tell somebody about me and they would tell somebody. And it just kind of, catapulted. And first year of my real estate career, I made 20,000. By year 7, I was making a million plus a year. But that was not my goal. My goal was just to outwork every other agent in town because I had 6 children at the time banking on my success, and I was not going to quit. And I became a multimillionaire. I tell people off 90% no. And if you let the naysayers in the world control your happiness or your destiny or your success in business and in life, you will lose every time. You focus on those 10% yeses and you look at me and say, if she can do it, I can do it. Because you don't need everybody to like you. You don't need everybody to hire you. You need 10%. And you can do that if if you put that grind in, and that's my story. So let's go down. So is really Claude says it's really hard to forget when someone hurts you. You don't have to forget. You don't have to forget. I'll never forget what happened to me. Please don't think I'm suggesting that, but you do need to forgive because forgiving frees you. And people ask me why I forgave is because I originally forgave for my children, because if I didn't forgive, then I would be bitter, which meant not only did they lose their father, they would be losing their mother. And so forgiveness is more for you, but that doesn't mean you forget. I'll never forget. Let's see. I love the title, The Other Side of Perfect. What does the other side of perfect mean to you today? So, Kent, thank you for the comment or the question. So, the other side of perfect, so my whole life, from childhood to being married nearly 20 years, to being on the front row at church with my husband and 6 children at the time, the outside world looked at us and thought we had the perfect family, that we had it all figured out. I went through great lengths as a child to be just like everyone else. I didn't tell anyone that I was being abused. I didn't tell anyone that I was living on the verge of homelessness. I would just show up and sleep at people's houses. I wanted people to think I was perfect. And guess what? They thought that as an adult. I thought, I've went through college, I've figured it out, I've made it. I am through with the adversity and married this amazing man. And I was deeply abused. My children watched me be deeply abused for many, many years, but I still didn't want anyone to know. And so my story, The Other Side of Perfect, is, you know, there's no perfect. And no one should live in abuse and be tormented and not speak up. And we need to stop being worried about looking perfect, because there's not a perfect. We all have ups and downs and hard times. I mean, there will always be adversity in your life, and you have to ride the wave and know that when you're at the bottom, you're going to get back up to the top. So you ride that wave and know that when you look at that person, when you look at me on the billboards, when people looked at me, they thought I had everything handed to me. Little did they know, as a child, I was watching my fingernails of my mother to make sure they didn't turn blue and she didn't die. And they didn't know the devastation my children went through when they saw me on the billboards. And I've got a child coming home from school asking me, Mom, what do I tell these people that are asking me where my daddy is when I know they know where my father is? What do I tell these people? I told my daughter, you look at that person in the eye and you say, my father is in prison. And you hold your head up, because nobody defines your self-worth or who you are. And a bully will be a bully until you put them in their place. And so nobody is perfect. We forgive your father. We have no control over him, nor did I have control over my childhood. What I've got control over is what I do today. So, Lucia. Hi, Venus. It's been years, but I wanted to be here to support you and let you know that I always admire you, even way back in the days when I had no idea what you had gone through or where about to go. So, Lucia, if this is Lucia Concencia, I think I'm saying her name right. Thank you. You were amazing. I worked at Western Sizzlin as a waitress in Falls Church, Virginia. And I bet she thought I was perfect, because I never, ever shared anything with her, which is proof that if you're in an abusive relationship, that can be with a parent, a spouse, or a friendship, You tell somebody. If I told you, Lucia, you might could have helped me. You might could have helped me, but I was too ashamed, and I did not want anyone to know what my life was like. So thank you. So, Bobby Falconberry, I remember you at AJ. I graduated in 1988. AJ was the high school I went to. And although I didn't know you, you came across as so sweet. It breaks my heart in retrospect to know what you were going through. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Fran Thomas, you are giving us all hope in our own ordinary get up moments. As long as you can look up, you can get up, Fran. So that's what I know and I believe in. So, Carolyn O'Neill, bless your heart and soul. I can't wait to get the book. I've had trials and tribulations as well. You have a lot of strength in caring for a large family. You have a lot of backbone, hugs, and love. Thank you. I tell people say, how did you get through it? And I tell them that you absolutely could get through it. That if you had told me 10 years ago that, I'd be a single mother of 7 children, I would say there's no way I could do it. Actually, 20 years ago, I would say there's no way I could get through it. But God doesn't give you the grace before you need it to get through difficult times. He gives it to you in the mess of your difficult times. So just remember that. Okay, David Knox, one of my favorite people. So within minutes of our first phone call, I knew you were competent and compassionate and had a story that needed to be shared. I am so proud of you for doing so. You're amazing, David, one of my dearest friends, and I just adore you. So, thank you. All right. Laura, you write so honestly about betrayal. Was forgiveness ever part of your healing journey, or was it more about finding peace for yourself? So I had a lot of practice at forgiveness. I I learned at an early age with my mother suffering through addictions and watching my brother go to prison and boys' homes, and my sister go to um, a mental institution. I learned early on how to forgive. Um, that's what I saw, and I loved the people that hurt me, and so and I think forgiveness is a decision. You just decide you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. And that sounds easy, but I told a friend recently, she says, like, how do you do it? You just say, I'm going to do it. And then every time you have a terrible, awful thought, you tell your mind to stop it. That's what I did. I'd say, stop it, stop it. And forgiveness for me was more for um, myself and my children, because I knew if I didn't forgive them, I would never be happy. And as a result, they would never be happy. And I would be giving them, I would be, I always wanted to break the cycle. And if I didn't forgive, there's no way I could have broken generational trauma. So I just did. Okay. Rolly? Is it Rolly Dimstra?
Yeah, just say Rolly.
I'm a terrible pronunciator. So thank you. You're an inspiration. My God, just reading your story, I wept. The people in your circle are the lucky ones. I hope you're doing well. Thank you. My circle is like this big because I tell my children that first of all, I've got a very large family, and I love being with them. They're my people. They're my dearest people. And outside of that circle of my children, every one of my friends are better than me, and they hold me accountable. And that's how I've been successful at life. They all give me things that I need work on. So thank you. Julia, go mom. Love you. Love you. You'll make me cry too. Okay. So okay. Laura, after everything you've been through, what does your version of a perfect life actually look like today? So, my version of a perfect life is being real and honest and not pretending that you have a perfect life. Um, Having dinner with my children on our back porch, watching my grandchildren and my children interact together, and knowing that no matter what happens, no matter how hard life gets, that I've got these 7 amazing kids that love me. And that's more than I ever dreamed of, because one of the reasons I had such a big family is because I wanted to create something for my children to have, for a legacy for my children to have with a new family. And I've somewhat been blessed enough to have done that. So my perfect vision of the other side of perfect is just that, just my family. But I want to be honest and real. Days are still hard, things are still hard, life is still hard. It is beautiful, but there is no perfect. And the moment you accept that and you realize, okay, nobody's life's really perfect, then the moment you realize when you go through hard times, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just life, and you got to figure out how to navigate through it. Okay. Donna Horton. So she went to high school with me. I'm just so proud of you. Thank you, Donna. You're amazing. She's a twin. Thank you. Okay, Carolyn. Your heart is so beautiful. I feel your heart in your tears, in your compassion, and your strength. So, Carolyn, thank you for that. I do want to, Carolyn Love is the best daughter-in-law ever. I do want to be very transparent, though. I am not the perfect parent. I'm not the perfect mom. I'm not the perfect friend. I still screw up and mess up all the time. This book is about giving you a roadmap to be your best, and in forgiving other people. I'm a pretty happy person because I've got a gift at forgiving other people, which gives me a gift at forgiving myself, because I mess up all the time and I can just say, you know what, I'm going to do better next time. I messed up. I'm going to do better next time. Okay, so Harper, I imagine your children have watched you overcome so much. What do they hope they take away from your story now that they're able to read it? I can't really answer for my children. That is you know, I hope they look at me and I hope they're proud of me. I really do, because everything I've done is for them. And part of the book, part of the power, the real power, is again me accepting my role in my children being in an abusive home. Because although I am not a victim, but I created or I contributed to a lot that they went through by pretending to be perfect and not leaving. So that is something I will struggle with for the end of my days. But I practice forgiveness, and I do my best to just keep pressing forward and hope that they'll forgive me for my mistakes. And I hope I haven't screwed them up too bad. So.
Real quick, people are wanting to.
Okay. So, all right. So if you're watching Talk Shop Live, you can pre-order the book by hitting the shop button. If you're watching me on Facebook or Instagram, you need to comment below shop. And if you're watching on YouTube, you click in the description and you can order the book. And it comes with a signed plate that I've signed in each book that they put in there. And again, I want to be very transparent that every bit of this every bit of this profit goes to charity, that I'm not benefiting financially at all. So this book is a promise kept to God for me to help other women. And from a financial standpoint, I hope it's tremendously successful, because that will in turn give other kids with parents in prison scholarships and other charities that we're giving the money to a better shot at helping people. So, okay, Sarah Bird. Hi, Miss Venus. Love you. You're doing great. Sydney always talks about her favorite traditions and memories. I love to hear some of your favorites. So, some of my favorite traditions. So, Christmas morning is a big deal at our house. All of the kids, all of the grandkids still come over. Like, they're 5 years old, and they sit on our. We have a staircase. They all line up and they sit on the staircase, and everybody has to be there. And then they come around together as a group, and we open presents. And the kids love that I wrap every single stocking stuffer, and we go around, and each person has to watch whoever's opening their present open it, and then the next person goes, and then the next person, which is beautiful and fun because, you know, so, and it's easier for some kids because, for example, Sydney, it could be a piece of trash and she thinks it's like, oh my God, I love this trash, it's the best thing. And then you get somebody like me who has emotionally a hard time showing their emotions, even though I'm crying this whole little podcast. Normally, my kids say I'm a piece of steel. So I'm trying to show the true emotions I'm feeling. So, but it's one of my favorite traditions. But my favorite tradition is just having my kids around the table, just being with us. So, okay. Harper, let's see. Looking back now, were there red flags you wish you'd paid more attention to, or do you think it's only obvious in hindsight? There were absolutely red flags, 100% red flags, and I carry that with me. And I'm very faith driven, and I thought by loving more, by helping my ex-husband to get help, seeing counselors, getting him to psychiatrists to get treatment for things he had going on. I thought that was being a good wife, and that was my faith told us, for better or for worse, sickness and health till death do you part. I was living that, even though it was difficult. Now I look back, and my faith, the thing that saved me, also changed me, because God does not call us to stay in abusive marriages, and I should have left. So there were red flags. I got a letter about 10 years into my marriage from a random person, and it said, Venus, I see you and your 6 children and your husband on the front row at church every Sunday, and I cry on the inside because he's been cheating on you. And this was 10 years into our nearly 20-year marriage. And I am so sad for you. And so this is how naive I was. I got home and I called my friend LaStar, if she's watching this, and I called some other friends, but I will never forget LaStar said to me, who in the hell have you pissed off this time, Venus? Because I mean, he was so charming, and I'm like, you're right. Like, what? Because everyone liked him more than they did me, because I will say what I think, and I'm very nice, but I'm honest, and he just made you feel like you were the only person in the world when he was talking to you. And so my friends even thought that, like, that letter normally would be a sign. They'd be like, okay, I wanted to tell you, but they were like, Venus, that's crazy. But in hindsight, I got that and a few more things, and I'll talk about them in my book. I should have I should have dug deeper. So yes, there were flags. Okay. So
Just a comment.
okay, someone once told me some people are strong in the broken places. That resonates. It's true. That's very true. Okay. She's scrolling through the comments. Let's see. Can't read your book. Great job, Venus. Your inspiration.
Let's go.
Okay, so Chrissy says to me, what is one thing you would tell someone to do to start gaining confidence when they're healing and having a negative self-image? Okay, that is an easy one. What you say about yourself and to other people becomes true. You need to watch what you say. You need to guard how you speak. You need to treat yourself with compassion and kindness. And you need to get up and you need to have self care, which starts with exercise. You don't need an expensive gym membership. You don't need a trainer. You need to get out. And research shows that if you go out and you exercise for 30 minutes a day, and I'm not talking just a little walk, you got to sweat and you might not like it when you're doing it, but when you get done, you're going to feel pretty darn good about yourself. And it's going to, as a positive, it's going to start showing in your physical appearance, but those endorphins will help slow the negativity. And yeah. Hey, Bridget McGahee, you are the picture of strength. You're amazing. She and I went to high school together, and she found the love of her life, and they are still married because I see them on Facebook. And she knew from the moment she met him, and he was the same way, and they're just beautiful people. So thank you, Bridget.
We have to wrap up. Do you want to read the rest?
Okay, so we have to wrap up. They're cutting me off. Okay, so I'm going to read you the last couple paragraphs of the book to leave you with. Okay. God can guide us and direct us, but he does not take away our agency. That responsibility is ours. It was mine. I cannot take responsibility for Tripp's actions. I cannot rewrite the past, but I can name where I stayed too long. I can say out loud that love does not require silence and forgiveness does not require exposure to harm. Now I understand that sometimes strength means leaving quietly, decisively, without needing permission. Today, I listen to my instincts. I no longer mistake fear for faith or loyalty for love. I no longer believe that everything can be healed by patience alone. I do not try to fix what refuses to change. I protect what mine is to protect. I forgive Tripp for being human and broken. I forgive myself for believing I could save him. I forgive the woman I was for doing the best she could with what she understood at the time. If there's one thing my life has taught me, it is this. I am not powerless. I am not finished. I am not too late, and neither are you. I hope this book helps you, give you the roadmap you need, if you need it, and when you need it. Thank you for joining.